each of our council members as they serve our community. We ask that you grant them wisdom to use our resources wisely and well, wisdom to represent all members of our community fairly, and wisdom that come out to promote the good for all. We ask for an atmosphere of unity tonight. We thank you for your hand being over this community. And we ask, God, that you would usher in a season of prosperity and refreshing over Cedar Lake. We pray this in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to bring the town and council public meeting for June 18th to order. Would like to stand for a pledge of allegiance and a moment of silence, please. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call, please, Jen.
Robert Carnahan,
Here.
Ralph Miller,
Present.
Randy Niemeyer,
Present.
Greg Parker,
Here.
Richard Sharp,
Here.
Julia Rivera, here, John Foreman,
Present.
Jill Murr, here, David Austin.
Present. At this time, I'd like to open up the floor to public comment for items that are on the agenda. If anybody has any public comment pertaining to the agenda items. Without seeing anybody standing up or raising their hand, we will move forward with consent agenda. Yes, sir.
May I offer this before the meeting gets started in edification
Sure.
of the flag that we just pledged and the service that Bob conducted and led last Friday. Friday, June 14th was Flag Day, and Bob was announcing it for a month before and did a great job of pulling together the officials that came, the citizenry that attended, getting Diane involved as she always does, and doing just a tremendous job. Bob, you do that on almost everything you do. Once in a while, we all have an off day, but it wasn't last Friday, and thank you for that.
Very nice.
Yes, it was.
Very nice, Bob. Yeah, thank you on behalf of all of us that couldn't make it. That's great. Thanks, David. Consent agenda, the minutes of June 14th, 2019. Claims, all town funds, $165,138.51. Wastewater operating, $114,801.55. Water utility at $71,900.79. Stormwater at $1,658.09, as well as payroll on June 13th for $257,488.37. Item 3, manual journal entries, May 1 through 31, 2019. And item 4, tag day requests, June 29th, 2019, Knights of Columbus. Would anybody care to make a motion for the consent agenda items?
Mr. President, a clarification of the record. You said in the minutes for June 14th, it was for June 4th.
Oh, I'm sorry, June 4th.
Thank you.
moved.
And that came in form of a motion as well? So
No, Greg made the motion. I just
Okay.
made a correction to the record.
Motion by Greg,
I'll second it.
second by Ralph. Thank you, Ralph.
Question.
Yes.
In the claims here, who is Kimball Midwest? I see we purchased a lot of different things. Who are they and where are
They're
they?
a parts supplier.
Where at?
Where are they from? Or I know I buy parts from them in my business, tools and parts and bolts and nuts.
It says paint for trucks and stuff.
Kimball Midwest.
Yeah, that was for the used truck that we were paying.
Yeah, but I never heard of them. That's the first time I've seen them on the claims that I recall.
They're a nationwide supplier, Bob.
And we don't have anybody like O'Reilly's or,
Not for industrial,
There's nobody in
DuPont,
town that sells automotive.
automotive quality.
If there were, I would buy it from them. There isn't.
Yeah, they're pretty widely used, Bob.
all right.
Anybody else? Any other questions? Roll call, please.
Robert Carnahan.
Yes.
Greg Parker.
Yes.
Ralph Miller.
Yes.
Randy Niemeyer.
Yes.
Richard Sharp.
Yes.
Julie Rivera.
Yes.
John Foreman.
Yes, motion carries 7-0. Thank you. Ordinances and resolution, moving along. Ordinance number 1335, Wright Veld Public Way Vacation. We had the first reading on May 21st, and then the second reading was June 4th, but I think we're here today because we didn't have a quorum, perhaps.
We had a
Is that
quorum
right?
for the meeting, but we had a 3-2 vote.
Oh, I
So-
see.
So there wasn't an absolute majority.
Gotcha. So Julie, if you could read the
Sure.
ordinance, please.
Ordinance number 1335, an ordinance vacating a public way in the town of Cedar Lake, Lake County, Indiana, and all matters related thereto.
Thank you.
Mr. President, I make a motion to adopt ordinance 1335.
Motion to adopt by Randy,
I'll second.
second by Julie. Roll call when you are ready, Jen.
Robert Carnahan.
No.
Greg Parker.
No.
Ralph Miller.
Yes.
Randy Niemeyer.
Yes.
Richard Sharp.
Yes.
Julie Rivera.
Yes.
John Foreman.
Yes, motion carries 5-2. I'll wait for you to finish writing. Okay. Plan Commission item, Beacon Point Letter of Credit, Unit Number 3. Jill, did you want to give us an update on this, please?
Council, this is the letter of credit for the third unit in Beacon Point for your approval. It has been reviewed by the town engineer, as well as checked off by Plan Commission and your town attorney. It's recommended to approve it.
Okay, with Jill's explanation, does anybody care to comment on this or move forward with it?
That is a total letter of credit of $516,742.99.
Correct.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Bob, second by Rick. Roll call, please.
Robert Carnahan.
Yes.
Greg Parker.
Yes.
Ralph Miller.
Yes.
Randy Niemeyer.
Yes.
Richard Sharp.
Yes.
Julie Rivera.
Yes.
And
John Foreman.
yes, motion carries 7-0.
That took us all
Thank
some
you.
time there.
Monteleone building request. Under new business, Jill, would you give us an update on this, please?
Council, they had, this is for the address of 8323 Lakeshore Drive. They had gone through a process with the BZA. Were wanting to do a project and haven't really moved forward. They were asking for an extension on their permit. Traditionally, when permits come up to their expiration, we look at how much work is left on the permit and value that permit cost on what is remaining. They really haven't started any of their work and they were asking to extend their.
I believe the house is tore down now. Within the last week or two, they tore it down.
Yes, they've been working on it, and they ran into they came in and got their variance and got an approval, and they had some major problems with their neighbor. The neighbor's house and deck was built up right to the property line, and the neighbor was threatening lawsuits and blah, 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 if they touched their property, and it was kind of a crazy situation, so they really got hampered with the whole process. So they decided to manually tear down the house by hand after all this time. But they kind of got the permit,
Yeah,
I think,
they need the
picked
extension.
up their permit, and then they ran into that stone wall with the neighbor. So they're in a pretty unfortunate situation, and now they're kind of finally
Moving forward.
all rolling. So, they technically lost their whole entire year of their permit by their tax. So I told them the only way they could do is ask you guys if, it's kind of a crazy circumstance. So.
Okay,
I read the letter to the town and I'll make a motion to give them the request to extend their permit.
I'll second it.
we have a motion by Julie and a second by Ralph to grant the Monteleone building request extension. Roll call when you are ready.
Robert
Jen.
Carnahan.
Yes.
Greg Parker.
Yes.
Ralph Miller.
Yes.
Randy Niemeyer.
Yes.
Richard Sharp.
Yes.
Julie Rivera.
Yes.
John Foreman.
Yes, I wish them luck. I hope if you're in the audience, I hope you move forward with successes because it's quite an interesting property to tear down and rebuild on. So good luck. Under new business, item number 2, NDOT CMAQ agreement. Jill, if you could, please.
Council, this is the paperwork catching up with the grant that we have for E85 fuel. So I had requested an additional $40,000 for fuel for the next 2 years. We were approved that. This is the extension and supplement to our 2016 contract with NDOT. So it brings up the total purchase of E85 fuel to $165,000 for the grant, and of that, $132,000 is the federal amount. This is an 80/20 grant, so this has been definitely helping out our general fund and when we purchase those flex fuel vehicles. It's my recommendation you
Okay.
approve the supplement.
So move.
Motion made by Bob,
Second.
second by Randy. Roll call when you are ready, Jen.
Robert Carnahan,
Yes.
Greg Parker,
Yes.
Ralph Miller,
Yes.
Randy Niemeyer.
Yes.
Richard Sharp.
Yes.
Julie Rivera,
Yes.
John Foreman.
Yes, motion carries 7-0.
I
Thank
want
you.
to amend the agenda and add 2 items to the agenda. One on a crosswalk by the Dairy Bell and the Dollar General, and then I want to have the other one on putting 2 additional signs at 133rd Lane in Osborne.
I'll second Bob's motion for the agenda being amended.
Okay, we have a agenda item amendment. Motion by Bob, second by Randy. Roll call, please.
Robert Carnahan,
Yes.
Greg Parker,
Yes.
Ralph Miller,
Yes.
Randy Niemeyer.
Yes.
Richard Sharp.
Yes.
Julie Rivera,
Yes.
John Foreman.
Yes. Bob, did you want to take these in 2 separate
Yes.
items?
The first one is to put a crosswalk by Dairy Bell and Dollar General. I had Chief Colson go down there and look at it, and he selected a spot. And then Tim Kubiak also looked at it and marked where they thought it should be. I went to the RDC last night and requested up to $2,500 because Tim told me it'd probably cost $2,000 to do it. And Joey Kovich wanted our town engineer to look at it first. I called him today. I don't know if he had a chance to look at it or not. Do you know?
I have not heard back from him as of.
All right, but I'd like to make a motion that we go ahead and do this contingent on Don's concurrence with Chief Colson.
I see. Tim, is that something we usually do in-house, or do you hire a company to come do that?
No, we'll hire the traffic control people, because they gotta do that, like we did on the south end with the lumber.
Special, yeah.
So, boxing, coating, you know, so
Uh-huh.
we'll have some, well, actually, the public works will install the signage and stuff like that.
Right.
Have the traffic people do the actual marking.
I see. Hey, I noticed today too, the Dairy Bell folks are putting in some wooden posts.
Yeah, for the roof.
Do they know as soon as you do that, somebody hits them? That's what happened to yours that you put on the corner.
They're just trying to be, it's kind of in the evening time, so it gets busy, it's pretty.
Yeah, congested.
Get all the way out to that white line,
No.
so we're just trying.
It's gonna look good. I think our theme that you started is taking hold with a lot of businesses and stuff. It's cool. Yeah, it is.
I'll second Bob's motion.
Okay, we have a first and a second for the crosswalk being added by Dairy Bell contingent upon Christopher Burke's approval.
I also have a point of discussion on that.
You betcha.
It was also brought up in this discussion to also consider a similar crosswalk somewhere in the neighborhood of Hanover Schools. It was asked that the school board member who sits on the RDC, Denny Wilkening, discuss with the school board and staff there of the possible best location for that. And that would also be an RDC project as a way to kind of bridge the gap until we get that bigger intersection project done.
So you want to ask Bob to make his
No,
motion?
that's a future consideration.
I see.
I wanted to make sure that we put this on the record.
Gotcha.
So we know that coming up, hopefully in the next next month or so, we've got a
Make it
kind of
happen.
a planned project to do the same thing in that neighborhood.
Why would we not do it now and do them both at the same time?
Because the school still needs to pick out a location. We still have to have the chief down there to look at it, and the engineer and all of that stuff.
Gotcha. Very good. Jill, can you make sure that gets documented, please?
Thank you, Mr. President.
You betcha. Okay, go ahead, Jen, with roll call when you are ready.
Robert Carnahan,
Yes.
Greg Parker,
Yes.
Ralph Miller,
Yes.
Randy Niemeyer,
Yes.
Richard Sharp,
Yes.
Julie Rivera,
Yes.
John Foreman.
Yes, motion carries 7-0 on the crosswalk by the Dairy Bell. Then Bob also amended the agenda for improvement on 133rd Lane in Osborne. Bob, can you
All right.
explain?
Donnie Schultz got a hold of me and asked me if we could get 2 more stop signs put there on Osborne. Every intersection has stop signs except for that one intersection. And the people leaving the girls softball and the Little League, once they get past that one, the last stop sign, he says they just fly right out of there. And everybody's got signs up and down the road that says drive like your children live here.
Yeah.
And so I would like to.
Did Chief look at this?
Yes, the chief looked at it, but I think I need to make a motion to direct the attorney to amend the ordinance to implement putting those stop signs there.
Traffic control ordinance.
So that would be my motion.
I'll second that.
We have a motion by Bob, second by Randy for 133rd Lane in Osborne. Roll call when you are free.
Robert Carnahan,
Yes.
Greg Parker,
Yes.
Ralph Miller,
Yes.
Randy Niemeyer,
Yes.
Richard Sharp,
Yes.
Julie Rivera,
Yes.
John Foreman.
Yes, motion carries 7-0.
Thank you.
Without any other people adding any other agenda items, we're going to move into reports. Does anyone on town council have any reports they'd like to
I have a report.
submit?
A few weeks ago, a local realtor here in Cedar Lake reached out to a few of us, Jill and John and I. She had brought a group of investors from Canada here about a year and a half ago. We met with them back then. We hadn't heard back from them. They were in town to kind of look at areas in St. John, Cedar Lake. So they came and met with Randy and John and I. They're interested in possibly investing in some commercial properties, not necessarily within our bounds, but in continuous areas of South County with us. So, the meeting went relatively well. They just wanted some more information about the area. And we're hoping to open a dialogue with them and see where this goes. And I think it was pretty productive.
Okay. Very good.
I have a report
Anything else?
from the RDC meeting last night. We had at the last council meeting, I gave a report, or at the last RDC, after the last RDC meeting, which was a month ago, I'd given a report that we had made a economic incentive package offer to the Summer Winds commercial development.
Mhm.
That offer was, I felt like it matched our development matrix we have.
Right.
By percentage, it was pretty much on the money. It would have been a combination of stormwater funds and TIF funds, probably mostly stormwater, because most of the improvements we would have been incentivizing were stormwater improvements. Last night,
That was
Nathan,
for $270,000.
270, yes. Last night, Nathan Vist, the chairman of the RDC, asked that we consider on behalf of that development a tax abatement. Do you remember that number was 150,000? About $150,000 tax abatement. I told him I didn't think that was something that would be very favorably looked at, but that I would report it to you because I told him I would report back to him at the next RDC meeting. I feel like that kind of takes us out of the realm of our developmental matrix that we put in place, so we have an objective set of criteria, and it also allows us to continue our focus on infrastructure investment
Mhm.
instead of getting into this kind of big city approach to economic incentives. We really don't have the TIF revenue that supports that. But in respect to Nathan, he wanted that to be considered, so I put it in front of the council for conversation, consideration, ideas. My personal idea is I'm not in favor of that. I think the offer that was made for infrastructure was one that is very good for the public. that's just my
How
opinion.
does your matrix add up when we compare it to what we did with Strack and Van Til a few years ago?
If we were to plug that into matrix, I would say we would be pretty close. Just based on what you see in the matrix when it comes to number of jobs, overall value of the project,
Mhm.
those types of things. But we would have to kind of run it through a mock-up, and it would be hard to compare then to now.
Right, of course.
But the Strack and Van Til deal was, I would say, something that would probably come up pretty favorable in that matrix. And I felt Lambert's project came out favorable. It scored about a 48%
Mhm.
on the matrix. And he requested funding for 10% of the project value, which was about just shy of 500,000.
Okay.
And we came back with, no, actually it
270?
was over 500. I think it was about 550. So we came
Right.
back with 270.
So 270, and if
we were in that
Nathan
neighborhood.
suggested the present RDC 150, that puts you at 420.
Yeah, I think that's just pushing us to a place where we're setting in a very interesting
Slippery
precedent.
slope.
But they can't, they can't do the tax abatement. We have to do.
No,
that.
I understand. I personally think, this is my own opinion, that I'd like to see us figure out a way to maybe, whether we increase that amount, Randy, and it would deplete maybe TIF, but increase that amount or decrease the tax abatement, but try to meet it halfway. I'd like to see that development, that commercial development take off and happen. It would be kind of simultaneous with what was approved back in the late 1990s across from Hanover, and now with what's happening with Beacon Point West, it makes it a walking commercial district for all the new neighbors. I think that would be an advantage. That's my 2 cents on that.
I disagree with you there. I think if they can handle developing that, Randy, what words did they use? They were taking a chance that this area wasn't a destination or something.
I can't remember the words exactly, Bob, but I think we kind of debunked that in that if you look at how many addresses are just within the town boundaries of Cedar Lake, and you take the average number of people per home, that puts us probably right around 17,000. So there's enough people here to support a business community.
And I don't think if they don't develop that, I honestly believe somebody else will be in here developing it. Just like we got Tech Federal came in here. They didn't ask us for anything. They did a
Nor
beautiful-
did Bob Auto Group.
Right. They did a beautiful job. It's a completely brick structure, and we don't see that in a lot of our other developments here in town.
What's the completely brick structure?
Tech Federal,
Right, correct.
I'm very impressed.
Well, I
with
mean,
that.
until recently, that Lincoln Plaza never flourished. Most businesses that landed there didn't make it. So now I think with the addition of the fitness center, and looks like there's some businesses that are going to make it now in the Broadway corridor.
The
But
infrastructure there was terrible and
It
the
was.
developer was terrible. It wasn't the fault of the community that.
It was a rough
that-
spot for a long
that
time.
didn't
There's no
flourish.
question. It was a rough spot.
Now. you
What's your
gotta-
opinion on the increasing? Of
I'd
the
be happy
270?
if nobody ever brought up tax abatement for this community again, long after I'm gone. I think that's a failure for a community to, if you don't have anything to market and you got to give stuff away to get people to come here, you might as well give it up.
Is that right?
That's what I think.
Yeah.
Well,
That's a
This
tool. I think it's just a finance tool to
this,
be used if need be.
this council needs to get back to representing the people.
Uh-huh.
And the developers need to take care of themselves. The community doesn't need to prop up the developers here. Now, I could see it with the Stracks because this community needed a grocery store. But what Summer Winds is doing over there, we can take it or leave it. Sooner or later, somebody's going to develop it. So just a
Anybody else? Any comments?
And the proposal that was put out there was good for both the developer and the town. So there was a mutual benefit that wasn't an abatement. So once they started building, we would start collecting taxes. So there would be cash flow to support the infrastructure, which helps that entire area for development. So that's
Sure.
why that offer was made. But I mean, I understand what you're saying. I think sometimes for bigger projects that employ hundreds of people, there might be some value for tax abatement. But for something smaller like this, where there's going to be a couple of dozen people employed,
Value of the building is what, like 2 million?
it's about a $5 million
Oh, it is $5 million.
development. So it's a significant development. I want to see them do it. I just don't think that this project hinges upon another 150,000 or not. They're either going to build or they're not. my opinion.
Agreed.
But that's the report I wanted to give from the RDC meeting.
We
Thank you.
already have multiple issues of financial.
Well, that
I'm
would
gonna
be
s-
equivalent to 1 year, right? 3%,
I'm gonna,
5
I'm
million,
gonna start, I'm gonna stop short of
$150,000 a
saying
year.
financial difficulties, John, but we need to raise some funds or allocate or capture some funds to do some other things. And starting out with a tax abatement on a project like that is not
Yeah.
a good policy to get that done.
Should we have a vote to deny the tax abatement?
Well, I don't think it's, it's a
Randy
counter
just brought it
that
up,
they
so-
made. And I mean, we could have a vote for that would deny that and make it official. And then I could give that report to Nathan and then that could be disseminated to Mr. Lambert.
Or you could say we had discussion and no motion,
No motion in favor
no
of it.
motion was made.
Okay.
And it's the same message being sent.
Mr. President,
I can't make a motion.
Mr. Lambert had reached out and we had email communication today.
Mhm.
We were anticipating having this for your consideration at the July 2nd meeting. He would provide a formal request to you.
Yeah, because we
I
haven't
see.
gotten a request as a council yet
I see.
Right.
for the abatement.
So if
Okay,
you would
okay.
like to have it as a formal request, I had.
Yeah, it
offered-
probably
was
wouldn't hurt for
too-
all the council
Coming
members
out
to
of
read
last
it.
night's meeting, I didn't think it fair to either party to just,
And a $5 million investment, it's 1 year's worth of taxes.
Well, they're looking for 100% abatement, I believe, for the first 3 years and then graduated after that.
Okay, well, then it would be more than $150,000.
Well,
It's $5 million, 3% is 150.
but it's not going to be a $5 million development the first year.
Oh, okay, I see. what you're
There's going to be earth
Gradual.
move. There's going to be
Okay.
partial buildings. There's going to be partial occupancy.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
assessed value will go up over
saying. It's going
time.
to take 3 years. Okay,
Right? So it's kind of a speculative number.
gotcha. Very good. Thank you, Randy. Anybody else have any reports?
Just a comment, and maybe some of you got this as well. When I was out of town last week, a resident emailed me, and I think he was going to email Tim and Chief Dave about the softball fields and them having a tournament where people were tailgating. And when he woke up the next morning, there were people that had camped out in an RV in the parking lot there. I'm not sure if you got any calls about that, but when they have these tournaments, if you could have some extra patrol there, I don't know what the legalities are, but I would assume staying there overnight in an RV wouldn't be looked upon as something that people would do. But they just said it was kind of like a big party in that parking lot for the night of the tournament. So it seems like we always get some complaints either about people blowing the stop signs or staying out there late, parking on other people's property. Did you hear about it, Tim?
Just from your discussion, you told me in the beginning, before it happened, you said something, but that's the only thing I've ever. heard.
Okay.
I know that when they do have that, there is a huge amount of people that attend.
It's travel baseball. It's typical everywhere.
I have one other report.
Yes.
Last week when delivery of the ladder truck was made, I got a chance to go up in the bucket and look over Cedar Lake at 100 plus feet. And it's quite a view.
I'm not
It's an amazing
interested.
machine.
That's crazy.
It's an amazing machine.
Yeah, good.
Well, I had a big belt around me with a big hoop strapping me to the bucket. I wasn't going to
Just
freewheel
standing there
that.
for
No.
I did it previously when they
It was
had
fun.
that other truck out here down in
Interesting.
the chamber parking lot.
Hey,
Great
Mr.
truck.
Austin, did you have anything that you wanted to
I was
bring up?
just gonna suggest to you, that would be how you acclimate for zip line travel.
That's right.
Just
That's about that.
just a suggestion. No, I have nothing.
Okay. Tim, did you have anything you want to bring up?
No, I'm good.
What about the house in Lakeside? Was the MS4 caps on it, thus causing the drain?
Well, it's really just a minor grading problem, a little bit of yard settled there.
Okay.
Have it corrected by the end of the week.
All right, perfect. Chief Todd, Chief Dave, anything?
Yeah, the ladder truck is outside.
I actually have
Break between meetings.
doing.
We'll take a quick look at it. It's been lettered and it's not in service yet, but we're gonna have an open house and welcome the new truck to our community, invite the public to our ceremony, and hopefully everybody can come and have some cake, ice cream, and watch us. Plus a bit of champagne on it and which is part thing.
Do you have
Very good.
ribbon and big scissors for Bob?
I would love for Bob to cut the ribbon, yes.
I'd have to go to Diane for that. She handles
I borrow
ribbons.
it to her sometime.
She's a ribbon ceremony.
Dan has
If
the
you'd
scissors.
like to come out and take
Okay.
a look at it, sit down right out front here.
Very good. We'll do it. Chief Dave, anything? Okay.
Let's talk about
Mr.
Larman
President?
and Moore Street. Can we talk about that?
Sure.
I mean, we talked about some potentials in executive. I'd like to know where we're at.
So I'll give a
with the
report
project.
from discussion over a couple of RDC meetings about Moore Street. That's a TIF district area, and it's a kind of the next thing we have our sights set on, to make that a wider road, do the infrastructure underneath it, total rebuild. That was also talked about in connection with Lowerman Street, doing this thing to get all the way around the lake repaired. The Lowerman Street project, I think, is one that we can do in conjunction with the sewer project that we need to do in that area of the Lowerman Interceptor. So that's something also that wasn't discussed at RDC, but was discussed at previous meetings here as well as utility meetings, is that is a project that is in our near sights. Because I drove down Lowerman yesterday after I left the RDC meeting. It's in terrible condition. Moore Street's in terrible condition. So I believe that once Don gives us a report that will be done very soon on a couple of things, and I think we've got to get that asset management plan adopted yet. Is that correct, Jill? And once that's
Correct.
done, we'll be able to start the process of planning on some of those projects.
And two other locations would be Vermillion
Mhm.
and Fairbanks that were totally destroyed with the road project that was completed in High Grove. They drove up and down Vermillion and up and down Fairbanks, and it's a washboard,
So
just like Morris.
So those things, Greg, are right in the crosshairs of everybody. They're definitely not on the back burner. It's just a matter of waiting on some reports, some engineering reports, and we'll be able to start taking action.
And then 129th on, off of US 41. We've been working on that, correct, Jill?
So that's what I have on those, Greg.
All right, good.
Clerk Treasurer,
Better
do
than
you have
nothing.
anything?
I do. I am very excited to report
God
that
bless
we
you.
will be receiving our spring tax distribution later this week. It's about a week earlier than in previous months. I'm pretty excited because as of June 30th, I'm forecasting that our general fund will be very positive.
Good.
It is positive as of today, make no mistake. But, you know, in the past, about this time of the year, we've seen ourselves having to borrow
Right.
funds in order to get by. But we're looking pretty good.
Do you have any idea how much percentage we're going to get from the taxes? Is it gonna be 90, 95, or do you not know that?
It's kind of hard to really give like a percentage, but I mean, we do get reports. I mean, once it hits, I'll get a report on how much is, you know, coming our way.
With the
Yeah,
economy being
I'd
good, you
say
would
it-
think people could pay their taxes.
Assumption.
Yeah, we don't want to do that. Another thing I have for this evening is IPEP completed their annual workers' compensation audit, and the results of it were extremely favorable to us. We're looking at a return premium of approximately $10,100. So we'll be getting that back to us in the next little bit. We have received the tourism funds, the two disbursements to the Chamber and the Historical Association that you previously approved were actually within part of the claims that you approved this evening, so those will be going out tomorrow. Last week, I was out of the office. I attended the annual the Indiana League of Municipal Clerks and Treasurers Conference, 2 full days with the State Board of Accounts,
Fun.
getting legislative updates and sessions with the Department of Revenue on changes to URT tax and sales tax and all kinds of fun stuff. I brought back lots of ideas, lots of names. I actually have a phone call scheduled tomorrow with a consultant to help me get started on creating a capital asset policy for us, because we don't have a capital asset policy in place. And we really need something to give us guidelines so that I can better account for, our fixed assets. And then when it comes to doing like our annual financial reporting stuff, make sure that we're depreciating things correctly, claiming what we should be, not worrying about the little stuff, actually setting a threshold that, we need to follow.
Okay.
So that'll be coming up within the next month. I'll be, asking for input from you guys on
Okay.
what we want, which way we want to go with creating a policy. Next week, I'll be following up with our financial consultants from Lennon Woody Group. They'll be coming up to visit me again so we can get working on some stuff. And I also have another training next week for Gateway.
You always coordinate with Jill when London Woody comes up?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, we do.
Good.
That way we kind of bounce some things back and forth. And then I have Gateway training next week. I'll be meeting with our budget field rep, Kurt Ott, to get a better handle on the Gateway application. That's what we use to upload all our reports for the budget. Because here we are in June, and it is time to begin discussions
Yes,
on the
it is.
2020 budget.
Yes, it is.
So we'll need to start discussing that really quick here.
Okay.
I've already talked with some of the department heads, and we'll begin sitting down in the next couple of weeks and discussing. what
Did you
our-
buy all the department heads a red pen? Or no? To start their budget with a red pen? I'm kidding.
So
Great.
I think that's it for tonight.
Okay, thank you very
They'll
much.
carry me for a while.
Excellent.
You're gonna forget Jill?
Jill, you're up. Last but not least.
As reported at your last meeting, there were some stormwater board updates that, because of the timing of the two meetings, I didn't have a chance to get those. And I do have those today. One of them is in the Oak Shade subdivision, Wilson Ditch. There was a recommendation by the stormwater board to stabilize that ditch area along the south edge of 128th Place. There was some design work that'll be needed. It was a recommendation to do a approximate $30,000 project, which includes a Fleximat installed to help stabilize that ditch line from falling in and us having to keep revamping it. So that is one of the projects that will be coming. Another recommendation, as we had done before in the area of 13930 Hobart Street, the stormwater improvements that are needed there are just too large to handle as just a stormwater improvement. We'll add that to the capital improvement project lists. And when we do improvements in that subdivision area.
Very good.
That's all I have for this evening.
Great. Written communications, building department, did you have something for written communications on that?
That is in your packet and had been previously distributed. That was your new building permits through the month of May, having 68 new permits with a residential value of just shy of 12.3 million. We've had 194 alteration permits through the end of May with just under $2 million in value. So added to that, I'm sure there's been lots of building inspections. Just a
Very good.
couple. Holy Name sent over information. They're going to hold their farm stand fundraiser again every Sunday beginning July 7th through September 29th from 8 to 12:30. It takes place in the south end of their west parking lot. This is their congregation supplies items made by their own hands or raised by themselves. They haven't had any traffic issues. They've done this in the past. This is kind of letting us know they're doing it.
Okay.
Cedar Lake Ministries sent over a letter of thank you. They had their event. With all the wonderful weather we had, utilizing Kiwanis Park as some backup parking. And a special thank you to Bill Fisher and Nick Mager. They really helped out and allowed some guidance and assistance as they coordinated their picnic.
Very nice.
Christopher Burke's report. One of the things Don's been working on is your Highland subdivision proposal. We ran into one issue with coordinating some of NIPSCO's gas and electric and responding to our request for coordination efforts. We look to have that design completed by the end of this month, so you should have that back for, I anticipate, your July 2nd meeting. Unfortunately, someone had left at NIPSCO and it was throwing emails into just this general loop. We
Gotcha.
were able to resolve that issue.
Very
And
good.
also in here is the heat scarification hot in place. He has met with Gallagher and to discuss those options and is working on those cost estimates and provided design memorandum for us.
Great. Okey doke.
Okey doke.
Open the floor back up for public comment. Does anybody have any public comment on anything that was not on the agenda? If so, raise your hand, stand up. Going once? Yes, sir. State your name and address for the record.
Diane does also, John.
And Diane? Okay.
11,000 west of 127th place. I do have a
Your name?
question.
Yeah, your name.
Name.
Nicholas Wooley.
Thank you.
I do have a question to ask, well, you and Bob. What about a stop sign at Dollar General? Is there any way we can put a stop sign there and hopefully we can, any instructions?
Oh, right over here by the Dairy Queen?
Yeah.
I think with that S curve, I think it would be a dangerous place for a stop sign, is my opinion. But also, did you hear earlier in the meeting tonight, Nick? We're going to put rumble strips and a crosswalk to slow people down.
What does that mean?
Did you ever go over on the south end of the lake near South Shore Subdivision?
Yeah.
When you drive over it with a car, it makes you aware that there's a pedestrian zone.
Yeah.
So
they're not gonna put a stoplight in there or?
no, not
It's gonna-
stop sign. It'll
It's
be
going to be a
rumble.
crosswalk and rumble strips and signage
Oh, wow.
to let people know that there's a pedestrian crossing.
Okay. That sounds perfect then.
Yeah.
That's why
Good.
Thanks, Nick.
So any other questions about that?
Nope, that's all.
That's all, Nick.
Okay.
Thank you.
That'll be on my next agenda.
Thank you. Diane, did you want to?
If you don't mind if I could just say your
You sure can.
I'm interested in what the plan is for the, as a roundabout is being constructed. There isn't a plan to use the parking, where the roads are. Is there?
No, there's not.
No.
No.
It's up to the people that win the bids for projects to designate and find their own space to store, or what, I'm not sure what the proper
Staging.
terminology, staging.
Staging.
Yeah, that's correct.
And I believe most of the staging will take place right on the site. Is that correct?
Correct.
And I think the choice of their wooden telephone poles on the north side of the road, having to put gussets coming across the road to ruin our nice little park is hideous. And I'm going to make sure that somebody hears that. I didn't catch that when I looked at that initial plan. I don't know if that was an afterthought, but when I see Don, I was going to ask him about it because they've ruined our nice little park there in front of the parking area, and those are. It even goes back beyond that. Having a substation right off of main highways back in the 50s or whoever allowed that, and maybe you couldn't fight NIPSCO back in the day, but it's rather ugly.
They put that one over there by Casey's. All of a sudden, we saw it pop up.
That's ugly as well.
We had nothing. We have nothing to say about what they do. Correct, Dave?
It's brutal. But those gussets, they basically put poles in the park and then put steel wire to keep it from tipping because of the weight and the height. Now, it could have been soft soil. I'm not sure, right? There were reasons behind it, but it's just absolutely hideous. So that's my 2 cents.
Nicolini's Roundabout.
What's that, Dave?
That
Or
was
Tim?
the problem, the soil and all the gas relocation and everything, they had nowhere, what holes that wasn't necessary.
Okay. Concrete is always a good pole.
It's fitting for Nicolini's Roundabout.
One of the other things I
Yes.
mentioned was that sign, that large sign that I believe it talks about working, I believe it's a large wooden sign that's laying right now on a tree in the park there. And that's just gonna show the tree.
Okay.
And they also broke a water pipe there too, correct?
Jill, can you bring that up, please? Those
I
two
will.
subjects? Let them know. Thank you. Anybody else with any public comment questions? Okay, with no other hands
I have
being
one more
raised?
question for Dave before you adjourn.
Yes, sir.
A couple plan commissioners have asked for a executive session with the town council. Do I need action on that in a public meeting, or is that something we can just schedule, or?
We can schedule it if it's for the right reason under the statute.
Okay, fair enough.
Okay. Without any other comments, meeting's adjourned. Thank you.
John, are we going to take a short recess?
Yeah,
to
let's
look
have
at
a
the
short
fire-
recess
fire
and go
truck?
take a look at the ladder truck.
So after that recess, we'll convene the utility board meeting.
Yeah, we're gonna go look at a fire truck.
It's touch a truck day.
I didn't hear you. Yeah, I'm moving along.
Better bring it to my concrete this year.
Yeah.
He's gonna be better. Yeah, he's gonna be better. He's gonna be much better, actually.
He's gonna run marathons.